understand you're not ever going to know everything, but for me, I wish I had no marketing, like no like trust. Know what that is. People got to know you and like you and trust you before they buy from you, right? And we've all had those icky emails on LinkedIn. Hey, I just popped into your inbox, buy my stuff. And you're looking like there's no way, delete, because you don't know them, you neither like them nor do you trust them. I wish I had known that up front. I'm not a great salesperson. Let me just say that. I do better with establishing relationships.
Welcome to Career Coaching Secrets, the podcast where we talk with successful career coaches on how they built their success and the hard lessons they learned along the way. My name is Davis Nguyen, and I'm the founder of Purple Circle, where we help career coaches scale their business to 7 and 8 figures without burning out. Before Purple Circle, I started and scaled several 7 and 8 figure career coaching businesses myself and consulted with 2 career coaching businesses that are now doing over $100 million each. Whether you're an established coach or just building your practice for the first time, you'll discover the secrets to elevating your coaching business.
Welcome, everyone, to the Career Coaching Secrets podcast. We are today in the 5th episode. My guest today is Dr. Twanna, an executive coach and U.S. military veteran who started her career in U.S. Army with deep understanding of leadership, resilience, and career growth. She helps professionals break through challenges and reach their full potential. Today, we'll explore her journey, the lessons she's learned, and her insights on leadership and success. So let's dive in. Welcome to the show, Twanna.
Thank you so much. I'm excited to be here and I love the opportunity. Thank you so much for inviting me.
You're welcome, and it's our pleasure to have you. So tell us a little bit more about yourself and like what inspired you to become a executive coach. It seems like your background is very special, and this is the first time that I've actually been interviewing a coach that has basically a U.S. military experience before that.
Yes, so I'm what you call an army brat. My dad was in the army first, and I went through college and joined ROTC to pay for college because we didn't have money to pay for college, which meant that I owed the military 6 year commitment for paying for my college. But I also walked out darn near free, very few student loans. So that was a great thing. And the reason why the military came up was really there was no money for college. However, when I joined the military, you and I were talking a little earlier, so I didn't know it at the time, but I had social anxiety, right? And I also didn't know at the time that I'm an introvert. So you can imagine you're going in the military, you're standing in front of people, you're directing people, telling them what to do, and you're supposed to be confident and doing all this good stuff. And I was a whole imposter syndrome mess. I had inferiority complex. I lacked confidence in myself. I didn't believe in myself. And I was scared to meet new people. So, yeah, that's how I started off my career in the military, which made it challenging to say the least. But I was in about a year or so later, I got stationed in Desert Storm. And for whatever reason, soldiers would come to me and they would ask me, like, what should I do about my career? Should I stay in the military? Should I get out? Why would I get out? Why would I stay? And I got that question before the war. I got it during the war. And when we came back, I got that question again. So that's really where the career coaching started is that because I was 22 years old when I went into the military. And there were people who were younger than me, they were a lot older than me, that trusted my wisdom. And I was like, I'm 22, at least in my mind. I was like, I'm 22, what do I know? But the longer I stayed, the more I did that, first with my soldiers and then with other people as the word spread. If you talk to the LT, she can help you out. So that's really where that started. And also, I had to learn that was kind of where I started to learn how to deal with the social anxiety. And for me, I wouldn't necessarily laugh at myself, but I would tell funny stories and sometimes make myself the butt of the joke to because humor it just creates relaxation. I didn't have any clue that's what I was doing, but I found in humor a way to put the social anxiety at bay so I could talk to people. So I could stand up and share in front of folks because I was scared to death. So I ended up getting out of the military. I was going to go corporate. That scared me to death. So I ended up teaching. I just had this mind like, oh my gosh, I got to stand in front of people and talk. So I don't want to do that. So I started teaching, and I stood in front of people and spoke. But for some reason, it was easier because I was teaching, and that's part of what I love about being an executive coach is I get to share with folks and get them from their point A to whatever their next point is. For some folks, it's point C. For others, it's Z. For others, it's Y. And so to kind of pull it all together, where I get my enjoyment is when someone comes to me. Like I have anxiety. Yes, I'm an executive, but I have anxiety. Can you please help me? I have to get this down because I need to do XYZ. And I work with them to manage the anxiety, right? They get these tools and things that they use and they are able to calm their anxiety. And, I had a client that came to me and, I was the only person, at the time that was doing anxiety coaching. So she came and we got the anxiety under control. And she said, you know what? I think it's time to just leave the job. The job is the source of anxiety. Cool, let's do that. And she ended up landing her first C suite role, right, as a VP. You know, way less stress. There was like so much stress that she didn't realize how stressful she was until she came down and got another job where she could just do her job. So I felt good in that it was like a twofer, right? She managed anxiety because I have this understanding what it is to have anxiety. And then she got to land this really powerful job. She loved it. The benefits were great. And her husband loved it. She was like, we're working out together now and we're taking vacations. She wasn't doing any of that for like 9 or 10 years, but she got to do that, right? And sometimes I get messages from husbands going, thank you so much, because they have their wife back and it's a less stressful job and she's doing what she likes to do. So that inspires me. And when I was in the military, I didn't have any. I didn't have a mentor. I didn't have a sponsor. So I felt like I was out there alone, just tossed from wave to wave, trying to make stuff happen, figure out how to do this thing. And I purpose that no one else should ever have to enter a new career or a new position and feel like they're out on their own, isolated, no help trying to figure out what the crap is going on and trying to make something happen. And of course, I had social anxiety, so that made mistakes for me were like death. I just felt like death. And so it's not, but that's how I felt because I didn't have anybody to coach me and say, it's not the end of the world. Everybody makes mistakes. And now, one of my favorite things with my clients is you look at everything as a win or a learn. You're either winning or you're learning, not losing. You're winning or you're learning. And I wish that I'd had someone in my early 20s through my 30s to tell me that yes, you make mistakes, but it's not the end of the world, right? But oftentimes women are socialized to do everything perfect, to do it all and do it well. And so we get to the point we're afraid to make mistakes. And if we do, we feel like we're worthless. Why do I don't belong here. Why am I here? Why did they hire me? So I became the coach that I needed. And that's what I do
Wow.
for my clients.
Wow, that story just like hit me, because I was thinking like I'm also kind of an introvert. If I like people will guess that after seeing the first four episodes, and so they will know that I kind of like have difficulties maybe like following up or like I usually will jump like I've got that feedback that I jump to questions. And I feel like there's also some anxiety on me as well. But it was very beautiful what you just explained that about finding, first of all, where does this come from? Does it come from your job? And more often than not, it could be the case. And I love that not only were you able to help her with her anxiety, change her career, you also were able to impact the life of her husband. So you're impacting the life of other people that are related to the people that you are directly working with. And another thing is how you navigated it yourself using humor. I find that to be a very good tactic. I haven't thought about that before, but as you said that, I was like, wow, actually, that's how I know a lot of people that do this. That's how they get through these situations. They navigate it through humor because that kind of
Yeah.
not only breaks the ice, but it just like does it in a good way. Like a lot of value in just like what you just shared right now. And really interesting story. I think people are going to find that very interesting. So, who do you typically work with? And you kind of shared a little bit more about like what transformation do you help them do, but is there a specific target audience that you're going after?
Yeah, so I work with Black women executives, and people say, "You only work with Black women." When your message goes out, you know that you cannot advertise to everybody because you advertise to no one. And I like to tell because I do some business coaching with brand new coaches and other therapists, and I like to always say, "Well, Starbucks sells coffee." And pretty much what you see advertised is coffee. But when you get to Starbucks, they have coffee, they have tea, there's iced coffee. Ugh. Um, I'm a hot coffee person, but they have cake pops and they have sandwiches, but they don't say, "Hey, we sell." They just say coffee. And when the message is right, when you and I know we're skipping a little bit, but when your content hits people, yes, I advertise to Black women, but my content hits men, so I have men coming to me as well. My content hits white women, so I have white clients as well. My content hits Hispanic women, so I have Hispanic clients. My content has hit Filipino clients. So when the message is right, it will hit who it hits. And oftentimes people are like you. But I'm an introvert too. Well, I never thought there was a link maybe between the anxiety and the introvert. I didn't think about that. So when you put that message out there, the people that the message resonates with, they come to you. And I often have men go, I know you work with women, but I'm a man. Do you work with me too? Absolutely. But typically it's Black women and Hispanic women that's the bulk of my clients, right? And so the goal is oftentimes women of color, well, women, period. We are socialized to like achieve, go, 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 get stuff done. And when you're a person of color, there's extra level on that. Sometimes from your culture, sometimes from your family, you have to achieve. You got to do it better than everybody else. You have to really, really work hard. If you can imagine someone, and this is where I was, who jumped in both feet and was doing 2 to 4 times what I was required to do for 10, 20, 15 years, you tend to get burned out. And that's kind of where my clients are landing because my transformation is to help them have a fulfilling career without sacrificing their mental health, their emotional health, and their well being for it. So that's it. Yes, you can have this career that you love, but it shouldn't X out your family. It shouldn't X out your spouse. It shouldn't X out your friendship. It shouldn't X out vacation. You should
Hmm.
be able to do both. And that's a transformation that I have. So yes, I'm all about you finding that new career, getting that new raise, but I'm also about you doing it and maintaining your well-being, right? Because I was close to nervous breakdown at one point. I didn't know until I came off the ledge and I realized because you come back from the ledge and go, oh my gosh, I didn't realize I was that close. But I was because everything had to be perfect. I had to be the perfect mother and the perfect worker and the perfect, because I also have a degree in therapy, so the perfect therapist and everything had to be perfect. And that's a lot of mental load that women tend to carry. And no one gives us permission to say, hey, do you really need to do that? Do you have to do it like that? And that's what I help my clients. So, and it's different for everybody. You heard me talk about the client before, didn't take vacations. She was stressed, and her husband's like, "You're always working, you're always doing this." And for the first time in years, they took a vacation. And she took a vacation. She was going to start 1 October. I'm sorry, 1 August. And her boss, she said, I had this vacation planned. They're like, okay, great. You come here for a week and then you go on your vacation. And she was like, when you find the right company, they support your well being. They
Hmm.
do. But it's about finding the right company. And that's why folks will come to me because sometimes when we're on that hunt, we've been told you got to work 2 to 3, 4 times as hard. And you can't take a break because you can't do that. You haven't earned a break. And oftentimes women tell me they feel guilty taking a break. And so I step in and through coaching, we find a better job for them, right? And more money is always good. But some like, I don't care about the money. I just need to let go of the stress. But oftentimes they do get a raise, but they're in another place that values work-life balance, right? For some folks, it's a dirty word, but you got to, because if you lose your health, you lose everything. The job doesn't matter. Your family doesn't. Nothing matters once you lose your health, because you can't be the person you want for your family. You can't work as well as you want to. You don't support yourself like you want to once you've lost your health. And I
Yeah.
think that it's, for me, they're linked. Can't, you shouldn't have to do one without the other. And I question companies that make people be all about the company, but not about self care, not about mental wellness and physical wellness and emotional wellness, right?
hmm Yeah, and it can have a domino effect, right? So you might be doing very well at
Mhm.
work. You're putting so much hours there, focusing there, letting everything else behind. That's going to follow back. And then actually, you're actually not going to do that well in your job as well, because you're affected by these other things that you left behind and didn't maintain, which
Yeah.
initially you might have, but because you started this job where you just focused so much on it, you kind of lost what initially might have been your superpower.
Right.
So I really like that. And for other coaches that are going to be watching this, just like Twanna mentioned, having a laser focused niche that you're going after or target audience doesn't necessarily mean that you're only going to get those people, right? You can get also other people that come into you. So it does work. I've found that it works better generally when you're focused on a specific niche,
Yeah.
and you don't have to worry about like losing some clients, because there's still going to be clients that are not going to fall into that category, but still going to come into you and work with you, just like Twanna mentioned. What is the primary marketing channel that's currently working for you right now? Where do clients mostly fall from?
So I started off with Facebook. My first company that I had as a therapist was all hard knocks and learns. No one was helping me, and didn't have a business coach. I didn't have anybody, and I learned everything the hard way, right? And when I decided to pull my coaching business out of my counseling private practice, I hired a business coach. So the model that I started with was the Facebook model, which was great. You establish a group, grow a community, and then you provide value to that group, and then people from the group will ask you for a consultation, and that's how I got my first clients, right? Which was a great model, and it worked up until Facebook started putting me in Facebook jail. Never really quite figured out why, but I was launching two products and they shut me down off Facebook for like 9 days. And at that point, it was the only place, because everyone was like, you should be on LinkedIn. I was like, I don't know about that. YouTube is great. I don't know about that, because my coach used a Facebook model and I was happy with it. But at that point, I started to realize I cannot depend on one platform. So at that point, I started doing two things. I started growing my own email list, because that I own. No one can take that from me. And then I pivoted from Facebook to LinkedIn. And that was a year, the first time that Instagram went down and Facebook went down, and all these folks were like screaming, like, "Oh my God, my business is gone!" And I was at LinkedIn going, "Yay! I'm at LinkedIn. I don't have to worry about that." So that was my big pivot in 21 to LinkedIn, if I remember correctly. And so I was already doing lives. I got comfortable doing lives. I was doing the Facebook lives. Then I started putting them on YouTube, and I started doing lives on YouTube. And now I'm so proud to say this, as someone with social anxiety, I've been doing live on Wednesday nights on YouTube for go. This will be my fifth year, and that's a big deal for me, because I know people may not know a lot about social anxiety, but you do fear being judged by people, and sometimes you fear meeting new people, and you don't want to go to spaces where you're putting yourself out and people can see you, because you fear being judged and found wanting, and you fear being criticized. So being someone with social anxiety who can actually show up on LinkedIn like once a week. Because when I first started out, I was like, I'll do a live when I feel like it, and I was all over the map. I was like, I don't feel like it this week, so I'm not doing it. And so they're like, if you do it at the same time, your audience knows when to expect you to come on and they will look for you. So I took a deep breath and said, okay, we're going to commit to this. So this year will be the fifth year that typically every Wednesday, 8:35 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, I am live on YouTube, and I also stream to LinkedIn. And I've missed a couple of things like vacation or something like that, but it's just been consistent. And so whichever platform you choose, you need to be consistent. So I recently deactivated Instagram and Facebook. I was there because I started there first. I never really shut it down. It was just no longer my primary platform. So I went ahead and I've deactivated Instagram, and I deactivated Twitter and Facebook. So I solely concentrate on LinkedIn and YouTube. The advice is always do one until you do it well. Then you can look at adding another one. And it also depends on the age of your audience, right? If you want the younger folks, then you're going to want to do TikTok, right? If you want a 40-ish, 50-ish crowd, then you're going to want to do a Facebook or an Instagram. But if you're business and executive coaching, LinkedIn works well, but so does YouTube, because it's about half and half. I get clients from YouTube and I also get clients from LinkedIn. So it works. I love being able to go on and just give value to folks. I have like over 500 videos out there, and it talks a little bit about everything. In the early journey, I was talking a lot about anxiety and how it affects careers and career coaching and executive coaching. So there's probably something for everybody there. But starting out, again, I was Facebook. It worked. The model worked until it didn't. And so I would say always build your own email list and choose a platform. But if the platform changes its algorithm or it kicks you off, you don't feel like you've lost your business because you have nothing. When you're on those platforms, they own your traffic. When you have your own email list, you own your traffic. You can send them as many emails as you want or as few as you want, but they're on your list and you own that versus a platform. Again, no shame with being on the platform. I do too, LinkedIn and YouTube, but they're not my sole way of getting leads. I still have an email list and I still have a website, right? And so I get folks to come from my website to my email list so that if LinkedIn ever changes or YouTube ever changes, I still have ways to get leads from clients.
That all makes a lot of sense. So that is kind of like also what we talk about mainly with our members at Purple Circle is you can scale with one channel if you're laser focused on that. Also make sure not to depend on just one channel because again, it can shut down at any time. LinkedIn's usually been something that you can kind of rely on, but you can always rely more on like your email list, just like you mentioned. That is always the best option. And usually for coaches who have arrived at a certain level, all of them will have an email list that they utilize, and they can use it for anyone they're launching something. They can use that email list, and yeah, all of that makes a lot of sense. And I really love the fact that you did that for 5 years. Like your discipline there kind of made me think, oh, is it because she comes from the army and she has like a very strong discipline? And can everybody do that every Wednesday for 5 years? That's very strong. But yeah, the commitment is something that will get you far. And for anyone, like this is something that also anyone who follows Alex or Mosey is going to share something like this, that you always, if you do it consistently, it's going to work. Just make it work. It doesn't have to be only one channel, but one channel still can help you scale. Make sure that you're not dependent on it and make sure you do it well and consistently. So very, very great advice there on lead generation.
Because
When it comes,
I do. I'm on YouTube, but I every so often I'm putting things on YouTube to get folks to my website, which then they get to my email list. And the same thing with LinkedIn. And they don't like for you to send people off their platforms, but every so often I weave that into the content so that eventually people are leaving the platform and making it to my email list. Because again, we own our own email list. And at the end of the day, that is the best thing that we own it. We love
Mhm.
They're loan to us on LinkedIn and YouTube, but your email list, you work on it. You just start where you are. I started with maybe 100 or so. And it takes time to grow, and I've grown mine and I've culled it down and went a different direction. But you still have the ability to do that if you have an email list in the first place.
Hmm. And you can use one of these platforms to feed into it. So LinkedIn
Yeah.
and kind of like use it to feed into it.
Mhm.
In terms of like LinkedIn specifically, you shared a really interesting tactic for Facebook. What is one tactic that you're using in LinkedIn? Meaning, are you doing cold LinkedIn outreach? Are you just posting content on LinkedIn? What seems to be working for you on LinkedIn right now?
So it's a little bit of both. I have a team that does cold outreach for me in that they go through and they find my ideal client. And then I look and said, okay, yep, I can roll with that. And we reach out and we make a connection, right? And I had to train my team because I cannot stand for someone to say, "Hey, I just connected to you. Buy my stuff." That just irks me all day and twice on Sunday. So I don't do that. And I had to train my team like, and they were looking at us like, "We don't do that. We do not do that. I like heart-centered marketing." You ask for the connection. If they connect with you, you establish a relationship. Then I offer them because I have a lot of different, freebies in that I can give them, whether it's mindful leadership or career guide. I just have something that I offer, something of value that I offer them, and I ask them if they want it, right? And this is all through messaging. And then if they say yes, I give them the link or I sign them up depending on their choices. But that link puts them on my email list. Once they get, this the freebie, whatever that is, then they land on my email list, and then I go from there. Depending on what they signed up for, they may go into an email funnel for that particular thing. But in conjunction with that messaging strategy, I also have a social media manager who we plan my topics together, but she does all of the graphics and all of that. Anything that you see on my page on weekends, I've done, but anything new Monday through Friday, she does. And I normally just post my blogs on weekends. But we also post once a day, at the very least once a day. And that is based on research that I've done or in the research with my clients, what they're dealing with to figure out what their pain points are. And so we try to center all the content around those pain points. Like typically executives will have problems with decision making, time management, handling difficult clients, and work life balance. Right? Those are some typical things that they struggle with. So our content centers around that. I mean, it could be anything in that, but it kind of centers around that. And that's what we do. Now, sometimes it shifts, obviously. For instance, in the US, with the federal government laying off, just firing people like with 30 minutes notice, there are a lot of folks with the federal government, which I used to work for the federal government. And sometimes there are people that have been there 25, 30 years. So they've only had a job within the federal government. And it's scary to be fired at a 30-minute notice and realize you got to go out and find a job to pay your mortgage. And so my content now is really starting to talk about how to do a career transition, especially if you weren't ready for that. And here are some tips and those kinds of things. So though I have my content planned out for like 6 months, I always reserve the right to come back and shift depending on what real life is teaching us at the moment. What does the market teach me, right? And so, I do a live every Wednesday, and my social media manager, Nadia Stoner, I love her. I'm so glad. She used to be my apprentice, and she established her own company, and I hired her. She will take my video, break that down to clips, and then she posts that for me. So it's kind of a two-pronged strategy. And I get people like this who will say, I want you to be on my podcast. I get clients or I get folks that say, hey, you need to meet this lady because she does this. And so Gary Vaynerchuk talks about giving value to people. Stop being so afraid to give value. Give the value because people either they will purchase something for you or they will give you, refer you to like five people away and someone purchases from you. But giving the value is what's important. And that's what's important for me. So I like to tell folks, whether or not you sign on with me or not, go to my YouTube channel. There's 500 videos out there. There's something that can help you where you are right now. Or you can go to hashtag VIP career services on LinkedIn. If you put in that hashtag, you pull up all of my all of my content. Pretty much it's mainly my content. No one was really using that hashtag. So I was like, oh, let me put. And so now all you got to do is type in hashtag VIP career services, and you'll pull up all of my content, and you can go through and read what fits you best. So that's a great way of doing it. I happen to get very fortunate to find out that VIP career services was available and no one was really putting content under it. So depending on what your company name is, you can do that with your hashtag as well. And it's a process, right? It's a long game. But after 5 years, almost 5 years of doing that, I have a lot of content under that hashtag. Very few other people are putting content there. So you can do something like that.
That's like real estate for that, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
interesting. So basically, you do the outreach, you connect, there's a personalized message, there's some engagement, and then there's a freebie in which they opt in with their email, get into your email list. From there, there's a whole list of automations that kind of get them to eventually maybe book a call with you. Is that like the goal, the
Right.
end goal?
Right.
Yeah.
Sometimes people will just book the call up front, right? Some people like, I have to get to know you, and that's what you're doing with the email funnel. You're building that know, like, trust. And of course, you can build it quicker with video. So I do have clips of videos with my email funnel, but I will get people that will find me on YouTube, go through, listen to quite a few of my videos, and just reach out to me for a consultation call. It all starts with a consultation call because I have higher ticket coaching packages and I don't just work with anybody. I have my foibles, so I have problems working with folks who are not motivated to do that. Just it's not my ideal client. I want to work with someone who comes in, they know what the issue is, they know where they want to go, they just don't know how to get there. So that's where I step in by providing them the coaching from where they are to where they want to. But the folks that come in was like, I don't know, maybe kind of sort of, I don't know, maybe I should, maybe I shouldn't. That's not, I'm not that coach. There are coaches out there who are really good for that. That's just not where I do my best work, right? So I typically am going to work with someone who's like mid 30s up into their 50s because they're coming in as like, I need to do something else like fast. They know, and they're not hesitating or like, I'm just going to sit here for a while with this and I just want to complain about it. I want to do. That's probably not my person, right?
Mm.
And so I will come in. That's why I do that consultation because I know within 15 minutes of working with you, if you are the right client for me, I'm going to tell you that. And if you're not, I'm going to offer you some resources or someone else who's better suited for you and not take that client on. I do very well with assessments, but I have to because I get bored easily. And I get bored with people who cannot make a decision or know where they want to go and don't really want to find out. They just kind of want to sit. Not my ideal client. Someone else does better work with that than I do.
Hmm. Yeah, so just like with marketing, right, that you have a focus, a niche, you also, for people that come in, you have an ideal client profile that is a certain people that you'd like to work with and a certain group of people that you actually get also better results with because they follow through, they take the steps that
Yeah.
you're explaining them. So it works better for you because you get them results and just like everybody's happy, versus someone that's not yet ready to be in that stage. So basically, again, going back to marketing a little bit, you have the colder audience, they get to the email, they get warmed up. Some of them might be warmed up already and book the call directly. Some of them get warmed up over time, get to know you, get familiar with you, they get more content from you, and then they schedule a call in which you qualify them, and that's how kind of like it continues. For different coaches, there's a different process on that. There's like a qualifying call or maybe just like a sales call directly, or some of you don't like to call it a sales call. But yeah, most of the time, sometimes like, yeah, I'm getting to know the person. So that's a very valuable tip. And kudos to you. You've been able to figure out so much in just like 5 years of your experience. This is like advanced. This is not. Initially, I want to say this, but the coaches that I've interviewed, I've done like a white paper. I'm going to send it to you. There's about 71 coaches. And I would say that maybe 25 to 30 of them are this advanced level, and a lot of it falls into coaches that are mostly focused on referrals, which is not bad, but it's just not very predictable revenue at that point. If you're just focusing on referrals, then you don't know how many referrals you're going to get the next month. So it's kind of like gets harder that way. So a really good episode for anyone who's going to watch this. So the next question I have for you is, knowing that you've been able to build so far a very good business, what are your goals for that you're working towards for the next 1 to 3 years?
So I love that. One of my coaches always asks, what are you not going to do? Because I'm an introvert, and so I am full of ideas, projects, just full. And you cannot, or at least I cannot execute all of them. There's no way possible. So he always asks me at the end of our session, what are you not going to do? Which keeps me focused, right? So over the past couple of years that I've worked with this coach, it's just been my dream to go to different countries and work. So that's my goal. I've done it. I went to Costa Rica for about a month, worked from Costa Rica, took Saturdays and Sundays off, and I worked Monday through Fridays at the time. Saturday Sundays we were exploring Costa Rica and living right there on the beach and having a good time. So my goal in life is to be able to do that just from different countries, right? Costa Rica, Thailand. Just I love to travel. I'm an Army brat. Started traveling with my dad when I was 5 or 6 years old, and I just love to travel and I love to experience different cultures. And I'm a foodie, so I love to eat as well. So traveling and living and working in different countries works for me, right? My work week now is Monday through Thursday, and I'm off Friday, Saturday, Sunday, so I can do that. So I'm also caregiving for my dad, so that changed my plans a little bit because otherwise I probably would be living in Costa Rica right now. I'm having to like shift because I don't know how long I'm gonna be here with my dad doing caregiving. He's great, but I still don't know how long it's gonna take to get him to a point where he is able to do it on his own again because he's 80, right? So now I'm shifting because I was seeing one-on-one clients. I don't take on any more than 4 clients a month because I like quality versus quantity, and also I'm a introvert, so I don't want a whole lot of have to deal with a whole slew of people every month because I gotta honor who I am and what I am to be the best coach for my clients. And so with caregiving, I've realized that I cannot scale one on one being a caregiver and running both of my businesses. So I said late last year, before a lot of stuff that's happening now, that okay, you're gonna have to shift to groups because you simply can't do one on one. And there are just periods where I have to take my dad to the doctor or physical therapy. There's just so much that I have to do that I don't have the time in that week to do what I do. So I realize now that I'm shifting towards groups. Not that I haven't done them in the past, but I'm probably going to have to shift to more that being the primary. I will always keep a few one-on-one folks because some people prefer that, but I'm having to shift to a group model and one to few just based on what's happening in my personal life, right? And so it's not all worked out, but that's the journey right now, and that's the way it has to be. And you have to be as an entrepreneur, you've got to be to quote unquote read the tea leaves. It shifts when you get that data in. Because if you stick your heels in, I'm not going to change. Things will change anyway, but you'll find yourself overwhelmed or outdated. And so I don't feel like I can coach my clients on not being overwhelmed if I get overwhelmed myself. So that's my journey now. It does allow me to see more people, and it will still have some. I just know that people want that one-on-one attention. And so I'll be doing group coaching with laser coaching sessions one-on-one. And there'll be shorter sessions because this just laser coaching, but that's where my journey is headed. Like I said, I was actually between Costa Rica and I was going to spend some time in Ghana as well, but things have shifted. So I'll need to stay in this hemisphere, at least for right now. So right now, Ecuador is on my map. I think it's Peru is on my map as well. So I'll be traveling to them. That's what I want to do this year. I've been to 46 of our 50 states, I believe. I got 4 more to go. So I'm trying to fit in how I'm going to get that done as well. But that just depends on how well my dad does as well. So
Hmm.
I mix business. My business is based on my personal life, right? I'm in Maryland on the East Coast, so right now I'm in Arizona because I just look at it as a huge blessing to be able to just pick up and move both of my businesses to Arizona, take care of him. He's had two surgeries, but when you're an entrepreneur, and I see all of my people virtually, that's the benefit of being able to do that. When your life shifts, you don't have to lose your business because of those shifts. You just start looking at how you're going to orchestrate that business to fit the new bottle that has come up.
It's a very great opportunity that being a coach, especially being able to work remotely. I think post COVID, everyone got to experience that. Some got back to their office, but
Yeah.
I feel grateful for being able to work remotely as well. So I think that's very flexible. Just like you mentioned, you could just like do the shift. You can shift, and yeah. So I wanted to ask you, in terms of like your goals, do you also want to talk about your revenue goals, or is that something you're not driven off? You're mostly driven off
Um,
traveling and like having.
so
Okay,
revenue is three or four on the list, right?
I see.
Yeah, and as I say, I only take one on one. I only get, I will only accept four clients in a month. So I just had such a tough time as in my 20s and my 30s trying to live and be an extrovert because it's what everyone else is doing. And I'm supposed to be like that as well, but I was so miserable. So I know what it is to have a career and be miserable in it. And I
Hmm.
don't want that anymore. So, yes, my career is important, but work life balance is even better. And you heard me say I'm a therapist in my other business. And so I see people and I've known people who've just done the career and the money, and there's something to be had standing at someone's bedside when they are millionaires and they're in a nursing home lying flat on their black back and they can't spend the money. What was the point? What's what was the point sacrificing your health and sacrificing everything for the money and the job? And I've been in a position to see that. So it greatly affects how I view money. Yes, I need money to live. Let me just say that to pay my bills. That is important, but it's not at the top of the list. Peace of mind, and
Hmm.
I've been in a war zone. So peace of mind is like at the top for me, right? Being able to have a life that is not stressed and overworked is important to me. But so is paying all my bills on time as well.
Yeah.
That is important too. Yeah, the peace of mind and enjoying my life, being able to travel and live with different people. Yes. And ultimately I would love to, when I went through my first coaching training, they taught, one of the coaches taught something: front burner issue and back burner issue, right? So the front burner issue is the stuff that's going to bring you the money in, pay the bills, pay you, take care of your business, right? That's important. Um, and she said, but there is a back burner business, right? And so my back burner business is to help younger folks. I don't generally coach them. A lot of them don't have the money to pay that I charge for my coaching, but they still need it. And so that's my back burner, to be able to give back. I know there are people who cannot afford coaching. That's why I don't mind doing a live every week on YouTube and doing the free content, because there are people who are on their way up. They're not there yet. And so I do want to share with them. But my back burner issue is to be able to share. And as I go from place to place and I talk with people and I network with folks, I want to find ways to give back. I'm going to make money over here, but back burner, I'm going to give that money away. Right. And so, now I work with two agencies, and we'll say I donate to two agencies. One of those is Child Care Resources. It's in Jefferson County, Alabama. And at one point, and not a lot of people know, I couldn't afford child care for my kids, right? Single parent, dad left, and three kids to take care of three kids is left on me. And so Child Care Resources was an agency that provided help. If you were working, they provided some funds for you so you could afford daycare, because daycare even then was astronomically expensive, and it's just even more so now. And so I got all the way to the top of that list and I made $40 too much and I couldn't get the childcare resources. So I had to go on another list. And I already waited maybe a year to get up to the top of this list. And I had to go on another list. And so what I did was is I worked my way up. Now that I don't need it, and I think I came off maybe 2 or 3 years later, I didn't need the help because I was earning enough money, but I donate to that organization because I know what it feels like to say, I have this job, I can pay my bills, but I can't afford daycare. I know I walked that journey. So I donate to that particular organization, $50 from everything that I sell. I also my sorority is Delta Sigma Theta, and my sorority sister has a nonprofit called Be Fabulous, where her sorority sister was killed by her mate, right? Domestic violence. No one knew, and one morning he killed her. So Be Fabulous helps other women and other folks because women are not, of course, the only people who experience domestic violence. There are men too, but it's an organization that helps folks experiencing domestic violence, and so I give to that too. So again, front burner, that's where you earn your money. You do what you do, but you can also have a back burner issue. Now, how we got into this in coaching was there were some folks in the group who wanted to have whose issue they want to coach on, but it wasn't going to earn them money. And so that's when the coach told them there's front burner issue and there's back burner. You do the front stuff that's going to earn you money, and then you take that money and use it for your back burner stuff. So those are two of my back burner issues. And I typically will speak to folks for free and do a lot of things for free because front burner, back burner, right? So that's kind of my goal, is to shift to a place where I do more back burner stuff that just, it just tickles my fancy and I enjoy doing it because you're helping people who need the help.
And you just mentioned a coach. In terms of that, what resources have been most valuable, and what support has been most valuable in you growing your coaching business? Is it this coaching company, or is it something that you found to be a very great resource?
So I have lots of resources, right? A lot of resources. I would say one of the most important things that it was important to me was when I came to the Washington, D.C. area, I was working full time for the federal government, and I came on a Presidential Management Fellow program, which is a fellowship that basically trains you to be a manager in the federal government. And so with that program, I got an executive coach, for me. And that was the first time because, again, I was doing a lot of my career coaching and helping people stand up their businesses all for free. And people were saying, like, I need to pay you. This is valuable. And I was like, oh, fine. And it wasn't until I got that executive coach, I was like, the light bulb went off. This is why people say they will pay you, because you're providing value. And so with that executive coach, who went on to become my mentor coach, and that's the reason why I'm here today, because he was like, no, you can do this. And here's how you do it. So I work with him as a mentor coach, and I also have a business coach. And that's the coach that asks me every time we meet, what are you not going to do? Because I have all these great, wonderful ideas that you cannot implement. And that's a shiny new. When you're a new coach, you can do the shiny new because everything around you looks shiny and new. If I just get this, my business will be better. If I just take that training, my business will be better. Not necessarily so. And so those two coaches keep me grounded, right? The one telling me, like, you have great ideas. What are you not going to do? Because you need to focus on one thing. And so I now have I keep a spreadsheet in Google Docs, and I keep a list of my ideas in my future. I call it future ideas. This is all the great, wonderful things that pop up in my brain. And I no longer feel a need to execute. I just record them. And so you heard me talking about the group. I went back to that list and I'm pulling things off that I came up with over time. And I created this career group, right? Career coaching group. And so it's a wonderful way, especially for an introvert. You have all these ideas. It's a wonderful way to keep track of that, right? And I also had a business coach who introduced to me, because she's multi-passionate, and she said some of us are multi-passionate, and you have to understand what you can do and what you can group together. And what I do is I put on my to do list at some point whenever life pops up. And so coaching has really, having several coaches has really helped me. And I've had several throughout the last 6 years because, again, I started my business on my own, but I have had coaching since I stood up my coaching business. All 6 years I've had coaching through that, right? But I just think, number one, if you're going to be a coach, you need to be coachable so you can understand the process. You understand what it is to work with a coach and have to figure things out. And they're asking you questions. You understand why you do what you do when you have your own coach, right? And so that's certainly, people are my resources. The other thing that I use a lot of is I use a lot of apps. I use a ton of apps to keep me focused so I don't get so caught up in the admin side of the house and I can keep my focus on coaching my clients. So there's just a whole list of apps out there, from Opus, I just recently started doing that, to Text Expander. So that saves me time when I am doing messages. I like to use Missing Letter to automatically post. So I write a blog and it creates posts out of that blog for me automatically. And all I got to do is go schedule it. And so that goes out on the weekend. And I just sit down once, twice every other month or so. And I schedule for a couple of months out. So that runs automatically for me. So I have a whole host of apps that I use because when you're starting off in coaching, you can't afford admin, right? You can't afford virtual assistants. That comes later down the road. But there are tons of apps out there that will be your virtual assistant for you and help you and create your ideas. Everyone knows about Canva.com, but they'll create very professional looking things for you until you can shift that over to a virtual assistant. Because yes, I have a social media manager now, but if I hadn't said she does my Monday through Friday stuff and I do weekend stuff, you really can't tell the stuff that she does and I do. I became very good at creating content. In fact, I like it. I just don't have enough time when I'm doing my clients. And so you have to figure out at some point, when do you hire assistant and when do you keep doing it yourself? Yes, it's money driven, but sometimes if you're spending 50 hours doing something that you could pay somebody $10 an hour to do, it doesn't make sense to do. And so you'll have to figure that out for yourself. But I have to go over that conversation over and over. Sometimes it's not worth it to hire somebody. Sometimes it's absolutely worth it. But those are resources that you use. Like my business coach, I actually got content creators from him. He runs a virtual assistant program. So my connections, both my coaches connect me to their network, and I've been able to become a certified hypnotherapist through my mentor coach. So I use them as resources and they introduce me to folks in that network, and we keep doing that. So you have this large web, and what you do is you find people who are doing things better than you, and you're like, oh, that's better than what I do. So let me do that.
I just love how you're just like casually throwing value bombs here. It's just like you're just casually throwing so much value. This is going to be a great episode. So the next question is, what has been for you an unexpected lesson learned or something you had wish you had known when you first started scaling your coaching business?
That would have to be, again, oftentimes, and I mentioned this, women are socialized to be perfect. We got to know it all 100% before we think we're confident and competent, right? So I wish someone had told me at the beginning of the coaching, you will never know it all. You ain't gonna know everything. You just will not know everything. It's not possible to know everything. That would have taken such a load off of me. Because brand new coaches typically come in the door. We want to take all the training in the world because we're not good enough to coach. And whatever you got, whatever experience you had, you're good enough to be a coach out of the gate, right? And you don't have to know everything. You really don't. That's the one thing that I wish I had known, right? Because it would have saved me stress. So, because I was a person that said, I will never, ever, ever in life run a business. I will never do it. It's not going to happen. That's not my thing. That was what I said up until I established my first business. So there were things that I just refused to learn because it's never going to happen. I'm never going to run a business anyway. I understand you're not ever going to know everything, but for me, I wish I had known marketing, like know, like, trust. Know what that is. People got to know you and like you and trust you before they buy from you, right? And we've all had those icky emails on LinkedIn. Hey, I just popped into your inbox. Buy my stuff. And you're looking like there's no way, delete. Because you don't know them, you neither like them nor do you trust them. I wish I had known that up front. I'm not a great salesperson. Let me just say that. I do better with establishing relationships. And believe it or not, my realtor pointed that out to me because I told people I'm not the salesperson. It's not my thing. And she looked at me. She said, well, Twanna, you don't need to be like a salesperson. You have great interpersonal skills. In other words, you're able to build relationships with people and people will buy from you after they build a relationship with you. And that really is what your marketing is about. It is about building a relationship with people so that they know you, they like you, and they trust you. And they will either buy your stuff or they will recommend you to someone else to buy your stuff. When I get people that say that, such and such gave me your number and I'm calling you up because I'd like a consultation. I get that. So I'm great with referrals. It's not the biggest part of my business, but yes, I do get referrals. But I get referrals because I have built relationships with folks. They know me, they like me, and they trust me. They trust me enough to refer me to a friend.
Hmm.
Those two things, knowing that I will never know it all. I'm just not. Even now, I'll go like, holy smokes, that's new. That's what that meant. I will have gotten the information 4 years ago, but it didn't resonate with me. I didn't understand it until I got this experience, and then I'll go, oh, that's what you were talking about. And then it makes sense, and I pick up new knowledge. And I liken it to just when I think I've done it all, and I don't know what else to do next. I'll see this door open a corner and I'll peek around and there'd be this boatload of knowledge. It's like, but I thought I knew everything. Here I go again learning. That's entrepreneurship. You don't know it all. It is always a learning experience. And so I am a lifelong learner, but I have to get it in my mindset. Even though I'm a lifelong learner, I will never know everything. There will always be someone who does it better. And there will always be someone who does it different and it's better. Right. And so that kind of, if I look at something that gets stuck, I'm like, I don't understand why this isn't working. I immediately start going to my network and I start looking because someone else out there is doing it better. Why not learn from it?
Yeah, yeah, and I really like that. You don't have to know it all for sure.
No.
Anyone watching this, comment on it. You don't know it all. It's totally fine. And marketing, very important. You have the know you, like you, and trust you. Uh, we kind of have the same thing. We're just like we label it a little bit differently. So we say cold audience, warm audience, and hot audience. So like cold is like someone you just outreach to on LinkedIn. They don't know you. They're not going to buy anything from you. They just like you just introduce yourself, right?
Right.
And if they liked you, they are gonna basically opt in. So they're a little bit more warmer. Start to know you more. They like you. Then hot network is basically people that not only because all of them could be your ideal client profile. Is just that their journey has just started with you, so they're not ready yet to make
Right.
that step. So there's
Right.
always a client journey that you need to keep in mind of, so it doesn't really start from the finish. So cool. And in terms of your experience as a coach throughout the last 5 to 6 years, what would you say is what have been some of the biggest challenges you faced in scaling your coaching business?
So a couple were one of my biggest is always time management because I run two businesses. And up until 2021, I was working full time for the federal government and running two businesses. So time management is always a challenge. Putting enough time in the businesses and creating enough space for me just to be, like not achieving anything, just to be, and then creating space for the folks in my life and to do the
Hmm.
things that I like to do. So that there's always this shifting back and forth. Because, in my counseling business, if someone threatens to commit suicide, all other things will stop. That takes precedence. But it's always about time management, right? And then it's also being sure that I have enough leads coming in because again, I don't want 50 clients a month. I really don't want 20 clients a month. And because of that, I have to understand lead generation. I got to understand the sales. Like you said, I'm not a very good salesperson. I do sales because I've learned how to. It did not come naturally to me. I've learned how to over many coaches, right? But it's also being sure that as the market shifts, so does my knowledge about selling. It has to shift too, right? And then it's also learning the person that is in front of you, because you can't sell to the same person the same exact thing. People respond differently, right? I like to tell folks, I'm a Gen X, and so I'm a different customer. And there's just some things that people come to me and they do, and I am completely turned off. I'm never going to buy from you. And so you got to be aware of what those things are. So that's always a challenge, because people are shifting. We say Gen X and Gen Z and Gen Y and millennials. My daughter is a Gen Zer. She has almost no characteristics of Gen Z. She is almost like a millennial. So you have to understand when you're meeting people, oh, they're this age or this. You can't automatically assign them somewhere. You have really always got to be on your P's and Q's to know who it is sitting in front of you. Let them tell you who they are before you sell to them in a specific way. And so, I've done it. I've missed the sale, and after it was over with, I was like, you know what? She told me who she was, but I just thought she was over here. That is always a challenge to be understanding what that is, right? I will say that the biggest piece, again, time management for me. So I left my federal job in 2021 after they demanded I come back to the office during COVID, and I was high risk with a number of illnesses, that just were not worth the risk of me going in for this job. So I've been running both of my business since February of 2021. So this month is actually 4 years of running it, and it has been challenging, and the market changes. And so you have to be able to look out at your crystal ball and see when it's shifting so you can shift with it or be left behind.
I think that these are kind of like similar challenges that other career coaches are facing as well. Time management seems to be a thing for even if you're not a coach. So it's going to be a thing for every business owner, I think. And one other thing is we're coming to those closing questions. So first one, you've already done this from the start of this episode. So it was like, the question is, what advice would you give to other coaches looking to scale their impact? But you've done so many advice so far, which I don't know if it's like going to be repetitive at this point, or is there something else that you feel like you haven't shared that you would like to share with anyone who's going to watch this?
Yeah, there are two ways you can look at coaching and pricing of your coaching, right? It depends on who you are and what your values are. I choose to do a higher ticket coaching because, again, I only want about 4 new clients a month, and I'm cool if I get 3, if I get 2, but that's my business, right? So you do need to understand why you're charging what you charge, but you also need to understand your value so that you're charging what your value is. And oftentimes, new coaches start out, we don't charge enough for what our value is. We don't charge enough, right? So the advice that I've been given, and I heard it from Chris Do, and I've heard it from Alex Ramosi and Gary Vaynerchuk, is especially Chris Do. When you have a long laundry list of folks signing up for your coaching, and you just can't keep up because there's so many people coming, you need to raise your price. That's
As simple as
that's when
that.
you raise your price, right? That's your first clue. Raise your price, right? And then once you do that, you can start looking at how do you want to scale. I chose to scale by raising the prices, and I only see this many people, but I have 2 businesses. So I'm doing that for 2 businesses. I can't see too many folks in either of my businesses, or I don't serve my clients with the quality that I have promised them, right? And it also is, at what point, and I mentioned it before, do you bring in help? Well, if you've got all of these people and you're struggling trying to call them, and this is where I was, especially in my other business, I couldn't keep up with the calls. So it was time for me to hire someone to answer the calls for me. And I do have that. I have a virtual assistant that gets those calls. But those are your points when you start to need to look at, do I need to scale, and do I need to bring on help? So yes, you can hire somebody W-2. I have opted for contractors or rather virtual assistants. That works best for me, right? But now they do my lead generation for me, and so I get to interact with people versus having to go through and look at all the profiles to do all the things. They give me people, then I can go look at the profile and decide yes, no, maybe, right? But you get to a point again where if too many people are signing up for your stuff, you cannot keep up. Your prices are too low.
Mm.
And if you're like me at the beginning, I find it hard to say no to people that were not my ideal client. If you raise your prices to the right price, you won't have to say no. People will self-select out. And the people that self-select in will probably be your ideal clients anyway. And it makes it easier because, again, I don't like saying no, but that also means that I network with folks so that if they're not my ideal client, I try to refer them out to someone else that they may be an ideal client for. Because I get a lot of folks that say, you're exactly what I need, but I can't afford that, right? So I do have an online class to say, okay, is everything I do in my coaching sessions, it's just that you'll walk yourself through. That's a way that you can do it as well. Or you can have or you can have a list of referrals of folks in your network that you can refer to. Don't feel like you have to serve everybody, but understand what your boundaries are, what you're trying to get to, your work-life balance, and you can make decisions like that. Because these are things we don't really talk about. We get kind of here and there. But yeah, we all want to scale. And I laugh anytime I get someone on YouTube. It's like, oh, I can get you 75 clients this month. And I fall off of my chair laughing because I'm an introvert and I have social anxiety. I don't want to see 70 people in a month. But if that is you and you want to see 70 people a month, that's fine. You just got to work out how the business runs and how your personal life runs and your mental and your mental health and your well-being. Because there are a lot of YouTubers out there that are killing it. YouTuber influencers, they're killing it, but their mental well-being is not that great. You have to be careful. All the money in the world cannot replace your mental health or your physical health.
And it might look like they're doing well from the video, right? But
it does. On the other side, oh my goodness, yeah.
And you mentioned a little bit about the pricing. I really like that. If you're getting too many people, your pricing is too low. I also wanted to share with you, and I've shared that also in the previous episodes for the people who's going to watch this. I'm going to link it to the description. I did a white paper where I've interviewed about 71 coaches on growing a career coaching business on 2024. And there I've asked questions about their pricing, about how they structure their program, what marketing channels, what investments have they done, what was the worst investment, what was the best investment. You can watch all of that on, and we also did a webinar with all of these coaches that some of them were also live on the webinar and we're reviewing the results together. I'm going to share that with you, Twanna, and for anyone, there's going to be on the description as well. So you can review that or watch the podcast, whatever you would prefer. So far it has been a great episode. I really appreciate you coming, Twanna. And for anyone who wants to find you, twannacarter.com is going to be here in the video. And they can also email you as well on twannacarter.com if they want to connect with you directly, or also via LinkedIn. They can also look right through like the posts that you do and look at all of the just what we talked about. You're going to see that that's actually also in practice in her LinkedIn account. So you're going to learn a lot from just following Twanna. Twanna, it was a pleasure. And I'm hoping to maybe in next year when this podcast has grown a little bit more to have you again and see where you are at with your goals.
Absolutely. I would love it. I hope to have hit those last 5 states and living overseas somewhere. That's the goal.
Thank you.
Thank you again so much for inviting me. I have truly enjoyed this.
Thank you so much.
That's it for this episode of Career Coaching Secrets. If you enjoyed this conversation, you can subscribe to YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you're listening to this episode to catch future episodes. This conversation was brought to you by Purple Circle, where we help career coaches scale their business to 7 and 8 figures without burning out. To learn more about Purple Circle, our community, and how we can help you grow your business, visit joinpurplecircle.com.